G'day guys, how's it going? I'm Azza Whitnell, this is Azza World Sport, and week 3 of the Champions League saw some cracking games and a lot of goals. Now don't get me wrong, there were some pretty bog standard results like Real Madrid, they smashed Legia Warsaw 5-1, Dortmund beat Sporting Lisbon 2-1, we saw Atletico Madrid beat Rostov 1-0, so there were some fairly standard results. PSG, another one, they won 3-0. So there's some fairly standard results. Not really too much to talk about out of those games. We know that we're expecting the likes of Real Madrid and Dortmund to, it comes down to that game at the Bernabeu as to whoever's going to win that group. And you'd expect those kinds of results from the other teams that I just mentioned. The kind of big talking points from this week's Champions League, though, there's only one place to start, and that is at the Camp Nou, because Barcelona beat Manchester City 4-0. Lionel Messi scoring a hat-trick, his second hat-trick of the Champions League season. In 2 games so far this season in the Champions League, he's got 6 goals, the 2 hat-tricks and 2 assists. I mean, phenomenal form. But this hat-trick was literally handed to him on a plate, because I know that 4-0 can look like a really bad scoreline, and don't get me wrong, it is, and it was embarrassing at times. I mean, Claudio Bravo, wow. What were you thinking? Now, when you consider this is a guy who's brought in for his amazing footwork and they've ousted Joe Hart, some of the errors that he's making early on are just abysmal, and you would expect so much more from someone who played for Barcelona and won the treble with them. So, City fans, let me know in the comments below. At the moment, Bravo or Hart. I know he's only just arrived at City, but some of the mistakes you just cannot make on a football field. Doesn't matter whether you've just joined a team, whether or not you're settling in, whether or not you've been there a number of years. But that handball against, outside the box from Suarez's shot after giving Suarez the ball, it's just no excuse for it. And obviously City shot themselves in the foot. The first goal with Fernandinho slipping to allow Messi in, easy peasy. Every single goal was just a City mistake. Now don't get me wrong, City had some chances going forward, but yeah, I mean, 4-0. It's just not good enough. And Pep's had a bit of a rude awakening in the last month. Obviously, they haven't won in 4 games. The Celtic game was epic. It was just one of those standout games, really. The atmosphere, the kind of hype behind the game was brilliant. Tottenham was a bit of a crushing defeat. I think it opened a few people's eyes. Everton, don't get me wrong, unlucky not to win that game. Obviously, missing 2 penalties. But yeah, with this result, not what you were hoping for. And but again, it does kind of show how strong Barcelona are when you consider Barcelona didn't play very well and still won 4-0. And between Neymar, Messi and Suarez, between the 3 of them alone, they've already scored over 100 goals in 2016. That's the thing about Barcelona and what makes them so good, and still favourites to win the Champions League for me this year. The fact that they got those 3 up front, even if they're having a terrible game, they're going to rip you to shreds, and Messi did that. I think his record now against English teams is something like 17 goals in 14 games. Just phenomenal. I mean, there's you lose words to say about Messi. He's that good. Anyway, let me know in below, Ronaldo or Messi for you. Who's the best in the world? Really interested to find out. But yeah, anyway, moving on from the Manchester City game, obviously they're going to have to set their hearts out on getting some revenge for that when they face Barcelona at the Etihad in a couple of weeks' time. But Arsenal, what a season you guys are having. Now, when you actually look at Arsenal's form in the last 7 months, they've only actually lost 1 game, which was to Liverpool at home. Obviously, it wasn't the best start to the season, but this is the best Arsenal have been for a long, long time. Now, I don't want to overhype Arsenal because, like Tottenham, there's this thing about North London teams. You do really well up into a stage, and then obviously towards the end of the season, a bubble seems to burst, and it just doesn't quite work out. So I think, without putting too much pressure on Arsenal, I just want to enjoy and see where they're going for the time being. Obviously, Ozil was absolutely fantastic, smashing it, great hat-trick. Alexis Sanchez, there aren't enough words to describe how much I love Alexis Sanchez. His work rate, the way he scores, he's just a phenomenal player. He could be the man that fires you to a potential title this year. But like I said, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. Obviously, you've got to put Arsenal in there as one of the potential teams to win a title. Maybe the Champions League this year. But obviously, the real test will when you come up against teams like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Atletico, or Barca. But yeah, I mean, the player that I was really excited to see score for Arsenal was Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, because I love Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think he's a quality player. I don't think he's been utilised correctly at Arsenal. I know he's had a few injury worries. And kind of like Walcott, I was a little bit worried that Wenger wasn't using him to his potential. I know that we are finally starting to see Walcott come out of his shell this season, but obviously, how long has he been at Arsenal before that? So I was a little bit worried, and I can understand his comments about saying where he might potentially look at moving to another team to get more game time. Which I hope he doesn't, because I want to see him do well at Arsenal, because obviously he's a good English player, and I think he's great every time he plays. So, hopefully it'll be a bit of a kickstart for him now that he's got back on the score sheet and he is playing well for Arsenal again, which is awesome. I want to move on and just talk about the Bayern Munich game, because not necessarily for Bayern Munich, they won 4-1. Typical Bayern Munich display, very efficient, quality. You expect them to be at least in the quarters or semis this year, maybe even the final, or win it. But PSV, I feel so sorry for PSV Eindhoven this season in the Champions League, because decisions are just not going their way. You look at the Atletico Madrid game, how many decisions should they have had in that game that went against them? And this game's the same. Now, I know that Bayern won out 4-1 winners in the end, but at one point it could have very easily been 2-2. They had a goal disallowed that was clearly onside, PSV, after being 2-0 down. For a couple of minutes later, for them to go and pull one back anyway. But it just makes you wonder, if they had been able to level it up, what impact that could have had on the game. So I really do feel sorry for PSV Eindhoven, because they could arguably be in second place, maybe even top of the group, depending on how some of these calls could have gone against them. So yeah, you've got to feel for PSV Eindhoven there. But yeah, in terms of other major results, obviously there's nowhere else to look other than Leicester City. I would say Tottenham is obviously a place to look, but it was a fairly 0-0 draw. The highlight was that superb save from Hugo Lloris. Spectacular save. But, Leicester win again. At this rate, they're going to be in a relegation battle, but win the Champions League the way that it's going. I predicted Leicester would go through top of their group. I thought they would smash it. I had a lot of people in the comments say Leicester wouldn't do very well. They wouldn't be able to compete with the likes of Porto and that. I feel great that Leicester are proving people wrong so far. Obviously, I know they haven't officially qualified yet, but, after next week, if they win next week, they're through. So, I think it's great to see. And I really hope Leicester go far. I really, really hope Leicester go far. I hope they get a massive tie in the next round to absolutely, it's someone like a Juventus who picked up a good win in Lyon. That goal from Cuadrado was insane. And obviously, Buffon is Superman. I swear to God, he is Superman. How he's still that good at his age is beyond me. Absolute legend. But yeah, I hope they get someone like a Juve to play, because they deserve it, because they're just such a fantastic story. And hopefully we will see that as the season goes on. But hopefully they can turn the Premier League form around a little bit, so that they're higher up in the table, so they don't necessarily have to worry about a relegation battle, because I think Leicester are a quality team. I think they've just had some bad results against big sides. But yeah, the Champions League, as far as Leicester go for it. All right? Don't hold back. Don't go all defensive. Just keep doing what you're doing, because it's great to see. But yeah, that pretty much concludes all of the action from the Champions League Week 3. Comment below, let me know what were your standout moments from the Champions League in Week 3. What were your favourite goals? Because there were one or two really good ones scored. As I said, who's better, Messi, Ronaldo, or is there someone else in the frame that you think deserves more credit? Comment below, let me know. And as always, I will see you guys again soon.